made it into an art space. So, sir, just to get to know you better, we have a question. um, um, if you were going to bring a date to a heritage space anywhere in the world, where will you bring that date? If you're going to bring your date, for a first date example, to a heritage space, like it can be a building or a park, where will it be and why?
To bring a date in a heritage building? Yeah, actually, it's a question I didn't expect. Yeah, when you grow up, actually, in Europe, as I did, you were much more confronted with old architecture because most of the parts in Europe, even if the Second World War there was as well as here, was not as destroyed as Manila was destroyed. So when you grow up there, wherever it is, in Greece or in Norway or in France or in Italy, you grow up with old architecture. And actually, in the society, old architecture was always highly respected. So high-rise buildings were built mostly in satellite cities, never in centers. Most of the centers are under heritage protection. That's why it was so nice to hear that now in Manila, the government tries to renovate Intramuros, where personally I was always surprised because it's so fantastic and so beautiful that nothing more happened here, and it's so nice to hear that actually Intramuros is now again being renovated and revived. So, of course, you know, when you're growing up, actually really abroad, then you bring somebody to a more romantic place than probably to a fast food.
Not a heritage site. Alright, sir, you may start your presentation now. Thank you. Okay, again, let's give him a round of applause.
Thanks for inviting me here. As you heard already, I'm from Austria. I came here like 30 years ago to buy or to look for antiques and tribal arts from the indigenous tribes from North Luzon and Mindanao. And when you came here in the early 80s, you ended up automatically, if you weren't looking for antiques, you ended up in Ermita, because Ermita was tourist belt, partly infamous because of the red light, but it had a lot of budget hotels, and most of the tourists stayed in the 80s in Malate, Ermita area, because actually in Makar and in other parts of the city there weren't so many hotels. And because of this tourism, also all art galleries were there. Most of the art galleries and most of the antique shops were there. And I came here interested in tribal art, and yeah, so I ended up in Ermita. And at that time, this building, of course, it existed already, it's built 1902. And when you see the two gates on the right side, the gate on the right side was the mailing station. It was postal station. There was no internet yet, there was no cell phone, nothing. So all the tourists, everybody knows this building because it was the only place where you could send letters or postcards or whatever abroad. And I was surprised at that time that this building, it was at that time not in very well shape. There were like small bars there, massage parlors, and it was really ugly, you know, what the landlord did with it. And in early 90s, thanks to the owner, Tesoro, it's called actually Casa Tesoro, the building, the old name was Casa Tesoro. They decided to renovate it and to bring it back in the original condition, and I had the opportunity there to open a gallery space there. So, little by little, since the gallery did well, we were able to renovate the whole building little by little, and we switched also in the, actually 2 years ago, we switched also into contemporary art, but I'm a contemporary art and galleries since 30 years in Austria, so we run as well a gallery in Austria, so I don't have new field. And you can see here we have two gallery spaces where we are able it's a project space where we are able to give young artists the opportunity, the possibility to do their own shows, to curate their own shows. It's more for young emerging art. And another space which is more for established artists. Now, some people ask me why in Ermita, why not in Makati with contemporary art? Because there are, most of the galleries are there, the collectors live there. We work more on, let's say, on concept where we bring foreign artists to the Philippines with an artist in residency program, and we bring Filipino artists abroad. So we are in connection with foreign curators, with foreign institutions. And when you bring, let's say, foreigners here and you show them Greenbelt, nobody's really so happy with it because it looks like everywhere else in a city, in a tropical country. So what they want to see is, they want to see, for example, Intramuros. They want to see Binondo. And they want to see also Manila, where you can experience a typical Filipino or Asian street life. And not Makati, where you see some designer clothes. Not so many are interested in that. So we decided to be in Mabini, and thanks to the owner of the building, we were able to get 5 units there, where we have, as I mentioned, ground floor, a project space in the second floor, which will be the next photograph, and more established gallery, and the third floor is artist in residency. You can see artists can work there. They stay there for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, for 2 months. They work there, and they have the possibility also to do afterwards either an open studio, so where they can invite friends, and or an exhibition in our gallery. So mainly, our main interest is to have there a space for artists in general. So since there are always artists in residence, it's always busy. The building is always busy. So there are always 5, 6 artists there, coming and going, and at the opening we have always a big crowd. We work with foreign institutions, we work with the Alliance, we work with the Instituto Cervantes, we work with the Goethe Institute. So actually a space for art in Mabini, in connection that actually Mabini was always. The Mabini artists might be a term which you might know from the 60s. This famous Mabini art scene for our Mabini artists is a term that's still used. There's now a show in CCP about Mabini artists. And of course it was very on the commercial side and not so much on the institutional side, because they like to sell. But a lot of people came, and Mabini art is actually quite well known. I think I spoke enough about the project. So what I like, I mean, later on it's a Q&A session, but since this is particular probably for contemporary art and why there and why in an old building, please ask me any questions, and about how you see the art here or how I see it. Please be free to ask me. No questions? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to know how it's possible to link foreign investors with old buildings here, because right now a lot of families who own the buildings, they're trying to find a way to make the buildings live on, and they don't have the money for it. So I'm thinking it's a good model, maybe it's a good model to introduce foreign investors who are interested in the buildings, because right now there aren't Filipinos here who see the possibility, but maybe there are foreigners who see the possibility. How are you able to get in touch with the family, the Tesoro family? And do you think that this kind of model can be followed for other foreign investors out there? Do you think there's a market for foreigners who are looking to invest in these buildings?
Of course, there's a market, but I don't want to separate foreigners from Filipinos. I think it's more the question if somebody is interested to renovate, wherever this person comes from, to renovate an old building, and if it's possible to finance it in a way that at least it's a break-even, that you don't pay at least the break even